First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not splitting my inheritance with my step-family? Female 21. I've had a pretty horrible childhood. My dad was a junkie when I was born. And when I was 3, he just packed up and left my mom and me. My older half-sister, different dads, was not a pleasant person to be around, and my mom was so busy working that I felt that I was really alone. When my mom died in 2011, my grandma took me in and things got a lot better. Don't get me wrong, I miss my mom every day, but my grandma provided a much healthier environment for me. My dad contacted my grandma in 2018 because he wanted to get in touch with me, but I shut that down. I wouldn't even see him, wouldn't talk to him or anything. Well, it turns out that he had turned his life around, gotten married and had a whole new family, but never had any other kids. He wanted to get to know me because he found out he had a stage 5 pancreatic cancer, but I didn't want anything to do with him. I never contacted him back. Long story short, he died 6 months ago. I only found out recently because my stepmother contacted me about inheritance. My dad had left everything to me. It's not a life-changing amount. And by not a life-changing amount, I mean that I'm still on the same track I was about. I'm still going in college for the same degree, just debt-free. I'm still planning on buying the same house and investment properties, just with smaller loans. It will improve my life so much, but I'm still going to work and do the same thing I was gonna do before. But he made me beneficiary of his life insurance, $100,000. Left me savings, $35,000. And his house, which in this market I could sell for around $400,000. I mean, with this money I could have college paid for, buy a house and some investment properties, and still have a nice nest egg to fall back on in case of hard times. She gave me the contact information for the lawyer handling this estate. The problem is that his wife hadn't ever planned on working again. She had quit her job when she moved in with my dad and hasn't worked in 6 years. She was telling me that it would be wrong to keep all of the money, especially since I never made up with him, and that I needed to split it 4 ways so that she and my siblings could have an equal share. I told her she could pound sand because he abandoned me for years and she got all the best parts of my dad, and all I got was the inheritance, and I hung up. I contacted a lawyer and everything is cut and dry. He left his wife and stepkids $100 each and left everything else to me, but I'm starting to feel bad for his wife. Would I be the a-hole if I did split the money? I mean, my dad never did anything for me, so this last grand gesture is really all I have. Edit. They're living in the house and she's not on the title. I'm planning on hiring a property management company and writing up an official lease. I don't want to make them homeless, and I'm not planning on selling the house right away. But I don't want to make any mistakes and lose the house by having her live in it. Thus, the property management company. I'm going to talk to my grandma on my dad's side and see if I can figure out why my dad left his other family out of the will. Now, for the top comments before reading the poster's little update. Not the a-hole. You don't know his wife. You don't owe her anything. If your father left them each $100, he knew what he was doing. That inheritance is yours. Good luck in your future. He left those tiny amounts so they'd never be able to contest the will. He knew what he was doing and did it on purpose. You owe them nothing. Not the a-hole. 100% not the a-hole. Your dad made the decision to leave absolutely everything to you, so he clearly felt you deserved it, / needed it, and they didn't. Feels to me like he was thinking along the same lines as you, realizing he'd shortchanged you on a relationship, so all he could do was leave you an inheritance. Keep the money. It's what your dad wanted. I agree. He probably saw that step-family expected the money and realized he lost his relationship, so he probably tried to put in one last good word to Opie so that he wouldn't seem as horrible. They probably deserved getting 100 each. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I'm telling you right now, those people will most likely destroy that house. Protect yourself from that in the lease you are writing up. Yeah, I agree that there's a risk of retaliation under the circumstances that is likely not worth it to Opie. I know Opie doesn't want them to be homeless, and they won't be. They'll just live in a different home. That's not Opie's. And now for the update. Okay, wow, I just got off the phone with my grandma. I messaged her on Facebook and she gave me her number. I called her during my break. Apparently, my grandma hates my stepmom. I mean, I don't even know where to start. So I guess my dad wanted to reach out to me a lot sooner than he did, but his wife kept on convincing him not to, because she was saying if he got in touch with anyone from his junkie days, he would relapse. On top of that, they never actually got married. They had a ceremony 6 years ago, but they didn't sign any marriage license because they thought my mom was still alive and that he was married to my mom. She didn't want him to reach out for a divorce because, again, he might have relapsed. And the nail in the coffin, she was almost certainly cheating on him. I don't want to get into all the drama about that whole thing, but the only reason it didn't throw her out is because she got rid of the proof and didn't have any way to confirm it was more the next thing for years. Basically, it was a dysfunctional marriage, and by the end of everything, he didn't have the energy to deal with her, so he just let her be. Personally, what I think is that she never wanted me to be part of their perfect family. If he had reached out to my mom for a divorce, then he'd probably want to reach out to me too. Like I said, I wasn't super privy to information about his life until recently. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help support my brother's family despite that I stole their inheritance? I, 26 male, have been with my girlfriend, 24 female, for 10 years, and we have a 6-year-old son. My parents died when I was young, so my brother, 50 male, we were born far apart, was the one who primarily raised me. My brother was an extremely intelligent man, so he did well in life and was extremely well off. Not a billionaire or anything like that, but still wealthy. A few months ago, my brother passed away. He had an ex-girlfriend, 40 female, they broke up a few years ago, and 3 children, 21 female, 20 female, and a 19 female. I don't know why exactly, but he always disdained his immediate family, not counting me obviously, and before he died, disinherited his 3 children from his will. My brother also had a girlfriend, 25 female, and she was pregnant when he passed away. His unborn child didn't get anything since he wasn't born at the time of his death. Yesterday, my brother's girlfriend, the young one, contacted me asking if I could help support her and her newborn son with some of the inheritance. I thought about it for a few minutes, but ended up telling her no. She accused me of being selfish and went off about how I stole her children and my brother's daughter's money until I hung up. I can see where she's coming from, but I generally don't understand how she and her child are my responsibility. Am I the a-hole? Your brother sounds like he was a major douche. His first 3 kids are grown. However, his new baby on the way is going to have a much harder than necessary life due to your brother's choices. No a-holes here if you want to hold on to that inheritance. However, that baby is the biggest victim in all of this. Not to mention, the brother's oldest child, 21, was born when he was 29, and his wife was 19, and his new girlfriend was 25 years younger than him. You're the a-hole. While legally you may not have to do anything for this infant child of your brother and his extremely young girlfriend, morally it would be right to share the money with his minor children. Your brother also sounds like an a-hole, but is dead, so I guess he can be granted his status posthumously. You're the a-hole. She's still pregnant. He probably didn't even have any time to change his will yet. Here's what's going to happen next if the girlfriend is smart. She's going to hire a lawyer who will sue the estate. See, wills are funny. You can explicitly exclude someone, but if there is a reasonable grounds to assume someone was mistakenly not included, like an unborn child for example, then the court has the power to modify the will. That kiddo's gonna get half of their father's estate, and you're a terrible person for wanting to leave the mother of your brother's unborn child destitute. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not funding my sick brother's medical treatment? I know the title sounds bad, but hear me out. I, 27 female, have never been particularly close to my family. My parents, 62 female and 63 male, had always been partial towards my brother Nathan while growing up because he was their sole true heir, and I was like this unlucky pig they got off a claw machine they'd played for a second son. I come from a staunch Christian family that strictly believed in set gender roles while growing up, so much so that I'd be getting knitting needles for Christmas when I was 7, while Natty got 3 to 5 expensive toys that he'd asked for that year. I hated going to church groups and Sunday schools and eventually turned out to be an atheist, much to the chagrin of my parents. I funded my own college and further studies with a loan I'm still repaying to this day, while they had separate college funds for their blue-eyed boy. My father never approved of my career choices because a homely woman is a graceful woman, and he always thought I was silly to pursue a career in science. I'm a physicist, because women aren't good at numbers. I'm terrified of failing at anything in life because I know that'll reinstate their faith in my stupidity. I went no contact with their lot 2 years back when they tried to pressure me to marry a random man from our hometown because apparently he could recommend my brother, 31 male, to a job position he was vying for while trying to package it as, "Okay, lassie, you had your little fun and games, now it's time to settle down and be a responsible adult." Then on, I've talked to my mom over the phone a couple of times during the holidays, but that was about it. Last month, my mother rang to tell me that my brother has been diagnosed with leukemia and they need me to fund his medical care. I had started saving up for a house, and she told me she knows about my little nest egg, but I do not need it because some man will provide for me eventually. I flat out refused and told her they could get themselves a loan if they're so hard on cash. But this tiny lump sum has taken me almost 4 years to gather, and I can't jeopardize my future for this. Since then, I'm getting calls and texts from most of my extended family telling me how much of a selfish a-hole I am, how it's my duty to my brother and my family to stand beside them. My father yelled at me over the phone, calling me an ungrateful little witch who abandoned them at the mere sight of greener shores. I'm having second thoughts as to if I really am quite a gigantic prick for not footing my brother's medical bills since I have the money for it. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I know I haven't mentioned as much about my brother here as I should have, and I apologize for that. As I mentioned in my comments, he was a bully growing up, aided by the disinterest from my parents who always chose to look the other way, but as an adult, he actually made an effort to mend his relationship with me. We don't speak a lot, but I do talk to my brother way more than I do to my parents. I'm quite apprehensive of the kind of medical assistance he's going to get in these times, and I'm prepared to help out whichever way I can bearing the money. I, as a person, am excessively insecure and paranoid about my future money situations, and I don't think I can put that up for a toss for anything at all. Certain points to clear this off further. 1. My mother knows about my savings from my brother, who knows how much I craved having a place of my own, and because I've quite often discussed how excited I am when I eventually will. He once jokingly called me a control freak, which maybe I am a little, because I do want to have a place where I can do things my way without being judged or controlled. 2. My brother has been out of his job for close to 3 years now. I'm from the UK, so we do have NHS, but I'm not sure if it covers aftercare. My parents didn't provide a breakup for the money they need. They automatically assumed all of the family would chip in with whatever hard cash they could spare. And that includes my life savings, because of course, how can anyone prioritize a tiny loft over her brother's life? 3. I do think my brother expects complete submission of my assets to his healthcare because he hasn't spoken to me since my mother's phone call. He had admitted previously that he'd treated me badly growing up, but I don't think he considers himself treated better than he deserved by my parents, just that I was mistreated. At this point, misogyny is so deeply ingrained in him, especially since he's always gotten to be on the fatter side of it. I don't think I could change his perspective. My parents mingle in a circle of people with similar outlooks, and they've never tried to hide in public their strict Christian upbringing of their children, where girls are taught to be docile and unquestioning. Now for the top comments. If they're so Christian, then they can all empty their life savings to help him instead of asking you. Who knows? Maybe all he needs is someone to pray the leukemia away. Thoughts and prayers. Not a-hole. Your family sounds like someone has created a misogynist cartoon show. Women aren't good at numbers. I was half expecting a joke about the physics of sandwiches. Regardless, it's your money, so your choice. It's as simple as that. Thank you. I'm sick and tired of hearing that stupid outdated crap all the time. Just tell them surely with their collective power how much money they would all be able to raise if they sold their houses. Not a-hole. It's sad about your brother and your family, but this is your future nest egg. In a traditional household, doesn't the son usually inherit the most anyway? So they can give him his inheritance early if needs be. This is not on you. My parents are unashamedly house proud, so I doubt they'd go to the mortgage route. I'll pass along the early inheritance proposal surely though, as soon as they start speaking to me again. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for selling my daughter's car and putting the money towards her best friend's education? My daughter Sarah was suffering from a chronic condition. She suffered a lot of and missed out on a lot of things. As her only parent, her dad's deceased, I had to work hard to ensure she was happy and as healthy as possible. She had one best friend that she always called her sister, and she was with her during middle school. Quickly became close, and Sarah's friend was constantly there, in the good and in the bad. She did Sarah's homework, cleaned her room for her, even cooked for us when we got from the hospital in the evening. I knew Sarah's friend was the sister she needed. They have a lot of pictures together. After Sarah's funeral, her best friend asked me to help her hang their pictures on the wall. It got to me because although it was hard, but it brought me joy. It felt like Sarah's friend was like a member of the family. Sarah was 17 when she passed away. Last month would have been her 18th birthday. No one showed up, although I got on the phone with my brother and we both cried. Sarah's friend made a cake and brought a photo album she made herself. It was simple, but it was wholesome. I just sold the car I was planning on gifting to Sarah on her 18th birthday. And I contacted Sarah's friend's parents and gave them the $8,000 as my contribution towards her education. They were thankful for it and very appreciative. Yesterday, my brother mentioned not seeing the car, so I told him that I sold it and what I did with the money. And he started throwing a tantrum, saying I shouldn't have done it, and said that I'm not thinking rationally and acting out of emotions because he thought that the car was going to my younger brother, who walks 30 minutes to university and work every day. He said I should have thought of my brother and that he was struggling. We got into an argument, and I couldn't do it anymore. My mother agreed that I shouldn't have done it and that my brother was right. I felt bad, and I couldn't talk to him after this argument. Not at a-hole. Looking at it from the most brutal angle, I can come up with, on short notice, you still, by definition, own the car. As such, you get to make the decision on how to dispense with it. From a softer angle, Sarah and her friend were close, and you opted to honor that closeness. I get the younger brother situation isn't great, but your, I presume, older brother doesn't get to tell you how to do things. If you want a brutal angle, your surviving family's annoyed they weren't able to profit from your daughter's death. Screw him. Didn't even turn up to the funeral either. Didn't even put in the same effort that the cliché greedy grandkids put in when their relatives are ill. I read it as they didn't visit on her birthday rather than the funeral. Still, absolutely not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. Did your brothers or your mother pay for any part of this car? Were they willing to buy it for your brother? If the answer is no, you were 100% not an a-hole. It was 100% your decision what to do with the item you bought. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Update. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his family out after his son stole my engagement ring? Original post. The reason I, 26 male, know is because I literally caught him in my room going through my things. And it's on freaking camera. My nephew is 9 and has a habit of stealing things. They've gotten in trouble a few times at stores because he'd leave with something in his pockets. But of course, because he's a kid, they usually just say he forgot he had it. Even at school, my brother has told me they have had to come talk to the principal on a couple occasions. Doesn't seem like they've done anything to stop it. They had to come stay here with me because my brother lost his job, and they weren't gonna make it with all their bills, including rent. He's doing Uber right now while he searches for a job and they can move out. I didn't want to because of my nephew specifically, but family's family, I guess. A month ago, I finally bought an engagement ring for my girlfriend that I was planning on proposing to soon, but now I don't know. It's a $4,000 ring that I spent over a year saving up for her. It's been hidden in my room under one of my drawers. One time, when I found him snooping in my room, I told my brother to control his damn kid, then got one of those cheap spy cams in my room just in case. Then last week, I noticed it was out of its box, and after checking the cam, it showed he was in there again when I wasn't home. My brother and his wife have yelled at him. He says he left it by the TV in the guest room, but it's not there. They looked through all their stuff and it is too. I know for a fact he's lying about not having it, because that's the same thing he said about one of my watches he took, then ended up finding it. By the second day, my brother tells me they can't find it at all. And I told him either they find the ring, or he repays me the $4,000 I spent on it. If not, they can't stay here anymore. My brother got really upset. He told me I know how their situation is right now. And yes, it's a tough spot, but I couldn't ignore the fact that his kid can't parent took something extremely important to me that costed a lot of time and money. They were given a week to leave my house if they don't find a ring. They're having to stay at a cheap motel. But my brother won't stop begging to come back because what they're paying right now each night is coming directly out of their savings. He won't stop calling me heartless about letting something like this come between helping them out through a difficult time. And my nephew keeps saying he's sorry. It's just hard right now to want them around. Don't even know what to do about the ring. And every time I think about it, it just makes me so mad that it's hard to care about their situation. Does that make me an a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. They sold the ring. I think so too. At this point, why won't his nephew say where it went? The thing with kleptomaniacs is they often don't know what to do with the things they steal. He may have washed it down the sink, flushed it down the toilet, buried it in the garden, etc., just to hide it. It's not so much about having things, it's about taking them. It's highly unfortunate that he took something so important, and his parents definitely need to get him help, and should have done so already, which could have prevented this. Yeah, I hate to agree with this, but when I was the nephew's age, I was being mistreated at home and it came out in a weird phase of kleptomania. I didn't know what to do with the things I stole, so most of the time I threw them away out of fear. You probably did the same. Not stay home. File a police report and file a claim with your homeowner's insurance. I don't have homeowner's insurance. It's not a house. File a police report anyway, and if it gets pawned, the police will be able to track it back to you. Check out some pawn shops on your own. File a police report and take them to small claims. You have the proof on camera. Not the home. Hopefully not, but there is a possibility he was encouraged to do it and it was pawned. Nobody knew I got a ring from my girlfriend. It's been hidden in my room before they even came to live with me. It just seems odd that the ring is now gone. I know kids lose things because they put them in odd places. Just knowing your family is financially in trouble, although I don't know them personally, it wouldn't be inconceivable that they might have sold it. It's a possibility, but I also know my nephew's a liar and likely knows where it is but won't say anything. This isn't the first time something is stolen that he acts completely innocent about, until it's found somewhere he hid it. A Down 40 update. So many of you have asked non-stop for an update. Sorry it took me a while to log back on, but lots of stuff have been going on. Yes, I found a ring. It was a stressful day doing a deeper search in my house trying to think like my nephew, and looking in places where I think he'd hide something if he really didn't want it to be found. And the decision was if it really wasn't found and my brother wasn't able to get him to talk, or they wouldn't be able to pay back what I'm owed, then the police would get involved. He did beg me not to, but I told him then you better pray I find it or you come up with the money to pay me for it. Guess both our prayers worked because guess where I found it? In the freaking sink. The sink. And that's thanks to the comments who told me to look in those places. I don't know what I would have done otherwise. It was in the sink that was in their guest room. I'm glad you didn't just throw it away. You guys don't know how freaking relieved I was to find it. Took some work to remove the pit trap under the sink to get it out, but I was just so happy to find it. The same night my girlfriend, now fiancé, got back, I proposed to her and she said yes. After a nice romantic dinner, just the two of us at home. The plan was to wait, but after all this mess, I thought, screw it. I'm proposing ASAP before anything else happens. After my brother heard about me finding the ring, he thought this meant they could come back. I said no. He wanted to argue about this again. All I told him was he's lucky I haven't gone to the cops since there were already video evidence of his son taking the ring, and there's no way I'm letting them back in when my nephew wouldn't even say what he did with the ring. I talked with my nephew myself after I found a ring, but he just said he didn't want to tell anyone because then I'd be mad at him for hiding it. Honestly, I just don't have the energy for them anymore. His problem is their problem, and hopefully they get him help before it's too late. Only thing important to me is my fiancé and I starting our lives and planning our wedding. Thank you guys for your help. Seriously, you guys were my lifesavers. Added to add, I just received this news after already submitting my post for approval and just wanted to add because I'm so happy. But girlfriend also informed me she's pregnant. She found out while she was on her trip and was waiting for a good time to tell me. Not related to the post, but I don't care. I'm gonna be a dad. The fact that the kid refused to tell you where it was and his parents refused to make him means you are absolutely in the right and would be crazy to let them back in. Little Brad is going to end up in prison if his parents don't wake up. Exactly. If he's stealing, lying, and manipulating people to this level at 9 and his parents do nothing but enable him, imagine where he's going to be at 19. I had to read that number twice because wow, this is so worrying. Kid needs therapy. Congratulations 3 times over. You found a ring. She said yes. You're going to be a father. P.S. It's obvious you'll be a better father to your child than your brother is to his. Many more moments of happiness for you and your growing family. You're going to be a father. That line right there gives me chills every time I read it. Well, whatever happens, I hope I can be the kind of dad my kid will need me to be for them. It wasn't in the sink. It was in the drain pipe. OMG. I'm so happy for you that you found a ring and got your brother's family out. Amazing update. Thank goodness it didn't flush it down the toilet. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining my daughter's wedding? This happened a few months ago, but the situation is still tense. So although I don't think to be in the fault, figured I would ask for opinions. Early last year, my 52 daughter, then 25-26 at the wedding, informally announced to me her engagement to a nice man, 27. I really have nothing bad to say about him. An educated, respectful, and kind young man. I reacted pretty bad, I must admit, because she is my baby. She's too young for this. She got pretty upset at my reaction because she claimed that she graduated college and works full-time, as did her boyfriend, and she hoped that once in my life I would just be happy for her and respect her choices, trusting that she's responsible enough to be considered an adult. At any rate, she kept the engagement, but the wedding talks immediately ceased and no one in our family was informed, except for her brother. In the fall of last year, she contacted me again, she lives away, to tell me that she and her boyfriend decided to move forward and wanted to know how I felt about that, because this is something they thought over and wanted to do. I got mad again, because she's still my baby, and there was no rush, as I told her she could have waited another 4 years or so and get a nice job first. She was pissed off, and reminded me that she works in a nice place doing what she studied for already. Okay, she is a full-time employee, not an intern, but she doesn't get paid much. And she remarked that she intends to keep moving with her career with time. She isn't planning on kids right away. We discussed, and as my son told me, I have been passive-aggressive with her. But in the end, she literally told me, "Mom, F off," which is disrespectful and a proof of how immature she is. This time, she decided to move forward, informed the family, and set a date. But in the following weeks, she wasn't happy until she decided to call off the reception and eloped with just her brother and her boyfriend's brother. The man was okay with this because he lost his parents as a child, and he and his brother grew up in an orphanage. She got married at the beginning of the year, and I got mad because she called off the reception to make an offense to me, to humiliate me in front of our family. While my daughter claims that since her own mother couldn't be happy for her, I can't fake, I wasn't. There was no point in going together dress shopping, cake shopping, and stuff together, and then celebrating at the wedding. It would have been fake, and the mere thought made her sick to her stomach. She's really bitter that she couldn't have her big day because of me. That's what she's saying, and says that there is nothing more I can do to make it right, which I don't think I should. She has been disrespectful and childish since day one. All my family thinks I'm right, except for my son, which sided with his sister since the first announcement. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I just don't want her to make the same mistakes I did. Getting my kids so young truly ruined my life. She can become important someday. She's too intelligent to be wasted preparing baby food. She says she won't have kids for now, but that's literally what I said. Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. In what universe are you not the a-hole? You took a joyous occasion away from a loved one by making it all about yourself. It doesn't even sound like you have a reason to be so vile. Perhaps you just couldn't stand the thought of her being happy. Either way, I'm glad you still got married. And you need to get over yourself before you ruin your relationship with her forever. She's too young, whines the woman who was pregnant by that age. This whole post sounds like Opie resents having her own kids and is trying to live vicariously through her daughter. You're the a-hole. Edit. Ding ding ding. Adobe still seems to think that what she wants for her daughter is more important than what her daughter wants for herself. She does resent her kids. She said in her Reddit that having her children young ruined her life. How much do you bet that Opie's kids grew up hearing about how much Opie wished she hadn't had her kids? Opie, you're incredibly selfish and self-involved. You're 100% the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Big time. I'm curious about Opie's feelings that her daughter is her baby and too young to get married. At first glance, those words would indicate caring about her daughter, right? But actually, looking at the situation, to Opie, Opie's daughter is only supposed to exist as an accessory to her. Only Opie's feelings about her daughter are important, but not her daughter's actual life. Opie, good parents actually want their children to become independent and succeed. I don't think the word baby indicates caring at all in this context. It indicates a desire for control. If the daughter is a baby, she is too young to make her own decisions. She is a 26-year-old woman, not a baby. Of course, I agree with you here. You're the a-hole. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my fiancé and taking my heels off at our engagement party? My fiancé, male 31, and I, female 26, got engaged several days ago. This is relevant. He's tall and I'm in a 5s category. Pretty small compared to him and his family. He asked that I wear heels at our engagement party since there was going to be photos. Although I wasn't comfortable, not a fan either, with high heels, I decided to wear them just for his sake since he begged and pleaded. And also since he promised I would be sitting most of the time. But at the party he had me stand for hours to welcome the guests with him. There were like 20 guests. I got so tired of standing and my feet and legs were on fire. I asked if I could sit, but his mom said I'm the fiancé and should stand next to my partner, not just sit like the party had nothing to do with me. I told my fiancé again that I was in so much pain, but he said, "Suck it up, it's almost over." I had enough of it. I took my heels off and let my feet and legs cool off. He and his mom looked at me in utter confusion. Several of his family and guests saw me in barefoot as well. He freaked out asking what I was doing. His mom asked that I put my heels on, but I said my feet were done, and I couldn't do it anymore. My fiancé begged me, but I stood there till it was over like he wanted. The minute I got in the car, he flipped out, saying I embarrassed him in front of family and friends by standing there barefoot and refusing to put my heels back on even after his mom repeatedly asked. I reminded him that he said I wouldn't be standing, but turns out it wasn't true. He argued that for someone with a height like mine, then I should wear heels more often, and said should have sucked it up for his sake. He went upstairs and turned his phone off and refused to speak to me. I had no intentions of embarrassing him, and I do feel I should have sucked it up. But I think that he wasn't truthful about how long I was expected to stand. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, he doesn't usually care if I wear high heels, and said I should start considering wearing them from now on out, because most women wear heels at big occasions like weddings and engagement parties. Not the a-hole. Please don't marry this man. That is some serious controlling behavior. I was just typing this. Honestly, this is way bigger of a problem than just what happened at a party. Not the a-hole, and probably worth rethinking an engagement with a man who has so little concern for your well-being that he will give you the silent treatment for wanting to not be in pain. Precisely. High heels are not comfortable shoes. Wearing them for extended periods of time can cause blisters, leg pain, etc. I find it weird he was obsessed with the need for Opie to wear heels because she's short. Her fiancé should want her to feel comfortable. She could have worn lower heels, or even some nice flats. It's definitely not a good sign that he cares more about appearances than her actual comfort. Same goes for his mother. Why would he choose a short partner if he wasn't comfortable having a short partner? So, my fiancé is a full foot taller than me and I wear heels every day. However, for special occasions, I don't always choose the most comfortable pair. He took me on an incredible trip for my birthday and was so upset that I wore heels that made my toes, ankles, and top of my feet bleed and blister. He said he didn't understand why I did that to myself, and that me being in pain was ruining the trip. I can't even imagine being with someone who didn't care about my physical well-being. That's just so bare minimum. So let's just ring this up, shall we? Your fiancé is so comfortable with your height, he freaks if you're seen in public at your natural height. Your fiancé thinks he's been embarrassed in front of his family and friends if you take your shoes off. Your fiancé thinks that the fact that his mom asks is more important than the fact that you are in pain. Your fiancé describes you in terms like, with a height like yours, as if you're defective. Your fiancé goes off and sulks and refuses to speak to you over this. Did I miss anything? Not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend an apology dinner after my mother-in-law called me a bad mother at my son's funeral? I lost my son to congenital heart disease, and he did not survive the open heart surgery at the age of 1 year and 6 months. He was the greatest blessing I had in my life. Everyone kept telling me things will get easier with time. I know that no matter how much time goes by, I'll still be missing my baby and everything sweet about him. Mother-in-law and I were in constant conflict. Things always been bad between us, but in those months we reached our limit. She kept getting involved in my son's treatment and criticized every decision I made, claiming I didn't know how to handle my son's illness. We went low contact, but she kept causing issues occasionally. My husband was torn between our son's illness and his mother's issues. When my son passed away, she came to the funeral and caused a scene by arguing with me, knowing I had no energy for it. She used the fact that everyone was there so she could say it was my fault my son was born sick, and I didn't take care of him properly, that I didn't listen to her when she suggested other ways to treat his condition, and that I was the one who took their grandchild away from them and caused them heartache. She then loudly called me a bad mother. I had no idea how I kept my composure and kept standing on both feet. My mom and sisters responded by telling her to leave. My husband was sitting down crying. She then went to tell everyone I kicked her out as a way to hurt her further, and lied that I convinced my husband to ban her from visiting her grandson's grave. My husband later sent his side of family an email talking about my mother-in-law's behavior during and after our son's illness, and telling them he will no longer be seeing her. That had the family criticizing us, saying mother-in-law was just trying to do what was best for her grandbaby, and called us selfish for assuming we're the only ones struggling with this tragedy. We haven't seen his mom in 1 year and 8 months. I'm now 3 months pregnant. No one knew except my sister-in-law, brother-in-law's wife, but word got out, though we told her not to say anything. A week later, I had family members saying I was invited to a dinner hosted by mother-in-law so she could both apologize in front of the whole family and settle this issue before the baby's born. They said mother-in-law was regretful and offered to financially provide for her grandbaby, and they want to see that. I refused, but my husband surprisingly wants me to go. I had his grandparents calling me telling me that I'm a person with a good heart, and forgiveness is something I'm capable of giving. I told them I'll never be sitting at the same table with a person who called me a bad mother at my child's funeral. I still remember it vividly till this very day. My sister said this change of heart from mother-in-law is probably for the new baby. It could be, but I insisted I won't come. They're saying I'm making hard for everyone to move on and past this unresolved pain and should really go. Now for the top comments. Not day home. I work in nursing in ICU and I see people like your mother-in-law often. You were done so dirty, and no one, absolutely no one will understand what you and your husband went through and the kind of horrific choices you had to make. People like to think modern medicine can cure anything, and it's just not true. Treatments can be ugly, invasive, and even lethal, and I would never blame you for a second for trying anything possible to keep your baby in this world. I also wouldn't blame you for a second if you decided not to go through with some of these harsh treatments. There is no right answer in these situations. Only you get to decide. I'm so sorry for your loss, and that you had to go through that. Maybe I'm biased, because I see people like you at work, making decisions no one should ever have to make while getting yelled at by other family who won't even come to visit the freaking patient. Easy to throw stones when you don't have to make such heavy decisions. You are so within your rights to never forgive that woman. I hope the best for your current pregnancy, and I'm sure this little light will help remind you and your husband what familial love really is. I felt sick to my stomach reading this. The pure audacity of this woman is beyond words. I have 2 thankfully healthy boys, and imagining going through with them what you did with your son makes me want to cry. How heart-shatteringly lonely, lost, and utterly destroyed you and your husband must have felt with her acting like an idiot towards you, instead of being support you surely needed. She made your son's illness and tragic passing about herself, to posture in some weird way that if she had gotten to make the decisions, none of this would have happened. I'm assuming she's not a specialist doctor of some kind, so she had no footing to stand on. If she's a doctor, I'm at loss for words to describe how messed up that is too. I like the other poster suggestion. Make it clear to your husband that he is free to socialize with his mother, but it will never be in your shared home or in the presence of you or the baby. I feel this woman is unhinged enough to try to get grandparents' rights, call CP as a new if you disagree with her on something. The money offers further manipulation to try and wrest even more control for herself. Oh, you won't let me actively undermine your parenting? No. No more money then. Not Day Hall. Should be dead to me. F off into oblivion. My sister said this change of heart from mother-in-law is probably for the new baby. It absolutely is. She isn't sorry that she harassed stressed-out parents who are trying to manage the health care of a gravely ill baby. She isn't sorry that she berated a grieving mother at the baby's funeral. She is sorry that the consequences of her abhorrent behavior have led to her being denied access to a grandchild. There is absolute proof of this, and the fact that she wasn't sorry until she learned a new baby's on its way. Some things should not be forgiven, and frankly, her behavior falls into that category. You are not Day Hall here, and should not compromise. The only thing that matters for the next 6 months are your health and stress levels, and both can be best managed by immediately removing from your life and one insisting on renewing contact with someone who abused you. You should tell your husband that no means no, and he's not to bring this up again. It's not up for discussion. Please also visit r/justknowmother-in-law for help on how to set boundaries and stick to them, and for the support you may need in doing so. First of all, thank you for taking the time to talk about my issue. I don't get enough people who can understand what I have been going through, especially now during my pregnancy. Some people expect me to be thrilled with no excuse like my pregnancy is supposed to erase or make up for my loss. It's the opposite. I worry too much over little issues, and to some it's normal, but I find myself stressing out all the time. I try to take it slow and continue with my therapy. I haven't directly talked to mother-in-law, but I have talked to everyone in the family. They keep saying she's sincere and wants nothing more than for us to be able to move past this conflict. I truly don't feel okay with the idea of having to sit with her at a dinner table after all she's said and done. No matter what her purpose is, I'm completely against it. My grief is still raw and I'm not ready to see her. I don't think I'll ever be. It might sound awful, but I'm not feeling I could give her what she wants. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to throw a party for my daughter's coming out? My female 44 mother died last week after a very long battle against cancer, and I'm completely devastated. She got pregnant with me after a very traumatic event, and despite the pressure from my grandparents and the trauma, she refused to have a termination. They threw her out when she was 16, with no money, no support, but that didn't deter her. And as far as I can remember, she has always been the greatest and most loving mother. She was my hero, my best friend, and I don't know how I will be able to overcome her death. 2 hours after my mother's death, my daughter Amélie, female 20, decided that it was the perfect time to come out to cheer me up. Her words, not mine. I must admit that I was very unsettled by the loss of my mother, but I still tried to tell her that I was happy for her. Maybe not as happy as she expected, but I really tried to show her my love and support because she's my baby, and I want her to be happy and to know that I love her. The next day, she came to me saying that she forgave me for my attitude, and that she wanted to talk about the preparations for a coming out party. I was a little confused, but I asked her when she wanted to throw that party, and she said the coming Friday. I told her it was not possible because it was the day of her grandmother's funeral, that we could do it the next week, but not now. She was silent for a solid minute, and then all hell broke loose. She starts screaming at me, telling me that I'm a bad mother, as rotten as my grandparents, that I don't support her because I'm a freaking homophobic, that her girlfriend was right, that I'm a useless witch. I didn't even know that she had a girlfriend. I was so shocked I wasn't able to answer her, and it was my husband, alerted by the screams, who came and told her to leave our house immediately. Since that day, she refused to talk to me, my husband, or her brother. She doesn't answer our calls or messages, and she did not come to her grandmother's funeral. She told all her friends that I'm homophobic, that I've rejected her because of her true nature. All I can do is crying. I feel empty and heartbroken. Now I feel like an a-hole because I can't help but think that I was too focused on my pain, that I was not supportive enough, that maybe I should have made an effort and said yes for that party because it was important for my daughter. Everything is very confused right now, and I really need a different point of view. Not an a-hole. You are grieving and you wanted to throw a party? She sounds like a very self-centered person. The worst. Not an a-hole. Even if it wasn't a funeral, are you obligated to throw a party about it anyway? I would say the expectation is that you accept her. She doesn't need a party. Not an a-hole. And when are you kicking out your 20-year-old ungrateful daughter? She'll spin it as homophobic. And who freaking cares? She's already done that. Your daughter, by what you describe, is a self-centered little brat who needs to be out on the street to see who really supports her. She forgave your attitude? WTF? Your mother just died and she moves the spotlight to her. Ridiculous. If my kid pulled out some BS like this, I'd give them 2 suitcases on the sidewalk with their clothes already packed. My daughter doesn't live with us, but we were helping her paying her rent because she lost one of her job and money is tight. Husband wants us to stop helping her. I know that he's right, and we will surely stop helping her. But I can't help but feeling bad. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband I won't be visiting his mother for Mother's Day? My husband is gone for military duties, and he called me today to ask if I would be going over next weekend to visit his mother for Mother's Day, to which I said no. Then I had to rehash what happened last year for my first Mother's Day. Backstory. Last year was my first Mother's Day. My baby girl was born September 2019, so May 2020 was my first Mother's Day. During a pandemic. My husband spent the day with me, but his mother called him and complained that we had not gone over to her house for Mother's Day. I told him he was more than welcome to go, but the baby and I were staying home and hanging out and enjoying my first Mother's Day. He had gone to his mother's on Friday for Mexican Mother's Day. I ordered her Mother's Day card and flowers and he took them to her. She never acknowledged the gifts, to me anyway. On the day of Mother's Day, the only people to contact me from my husband's family were my father-in-law and brother-in-law, and they both wished me a happy first Mother's Day. I was beyond grateful and expressed that to them. Shortly after Mother's Day, mother-in-law called me and told me she was upset that I didn't go to her house on Mother's Day. I politely told her that I too was hurt that she didn't even acknowledge me on my first Mother's Day. I also told her how the year prior when I was pregnant, she went out of her way to make comments to me about not being a mother yet when my father-in-law wished me happy almost Mother's Day. I was extremely hurt, but I kept it to myself. I had miscarried 2 babies prior to finally having my baby. I always felt like a mother. Her comments were hurtful. Mother-in-law then proceeded to tell me that she didn't need to acknowledge me on Mother's Day because I'm not her mother. I told her fair enough, but don't expect me or my child to celebrate you, because by your definition, you are not my mother, and you are not the mother of my child. She never apologized for her hurtful comments. We are cordial now a year later, but after that, I decided that I didn't want to spend any Mother's Day with her ever again. I brought this up to my husband, and he told me I need to suck it up, move on, and go over to his mom's. I said no. I am celebrating with my daughter and my own mother, and I have plans during the weekend anyway. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Enjoy your Mother's Day, Mama. Opie's husband seems a little controlling. Trying to force her to go over there just seems weird. Good on her for not going anyways, but this kind of raises some red flags about him. Opie's husband is a mama's boy who never cut the cord. That's going to continue to be a problem, so keep putting your foot down, OP. He wants to sweep her horrible behavior under the rug so no one rocks the boat. She's an adult who needs to take accountability for her behavior. Not the a-hole. The problem here is your husband, not the a-hole. Yeah, I think the husband needs to stop sucking it up and finally let his balls drop. Not the a-hole. OP, you do you, boo. Happy Mother's Day. Not the a-hole. You're celebrating with your own mother and your husband is responsible for his. Even if he isn't in town, you can send her flowers at a card, or call if that's available. That's what I suggested, that he could have flowers delivered to her. Send her a gift. Call her. Not my mother, not my responsibility. I'm responsible for one woman on Mother's Day, and that's my own mother. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law nobody forced her to come when she complained about my food? My sister-in-law and I got along really well when my husband and I first met and were first married. Then she took offense when I ended up missing her 30th birthday party because I already had prearranged, prepaid plans with a couple of my friends. To clarify, the party was not on her actual birthday. It was 2 weeks earlier, and so I didn't see any reason to check the date with her. But she could not accept me picking them over her, which is how she views it. Even my husband told her it wasn't fair to expect me to lose out, when it's not like I planned it on her actual birthday. But it hasn't been the same since. Ever since, whenever we're hosting my in-laws or whenever we bring food, she criticizes it. My husband and the rest of the family have called her out on being ungrateful. They have told her that she should let the party thing go, but she doesn't. My cooking or baking was never an issue before she got pissed about me not being there for her birthday. She used to ask me for recipes and would cook together for Christ's sake. This past weekend, we hosted a small dinner with family, both sides, to celebrate the impending arrival of mine and my husband's first child. Kind of like a baby shower, but smaller and much less fuss. Sister-in-law was going off on the food again, and I had enough. I told her nobody was forcing her to come if she hated my food so much, and maybe we would all be better off without her constantly crap-talking me through everything, even such a happy occasion. She was pissed. She was so pissed. Even more when only one relative, another sister-in-law, came to her defense or called me out. It's now created tension between the family, and I've been called a witch, an a-hole, a petty witch, all sorts of other stuff, and I feel bad for lashing out the way I did. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Sounds like you handled it perfectly. In the future, her choices are show up and shut up, you win. Stay home, you win. Show up and run her mouth again, in which case you can laugh. Roll your eyes in front of everyone and say, there she goes again. To make things even more fun, start a betting pool for how long it will take her to complain. Or if she has enough standard insults/tells, start a bingo card. The first person who gets bingo using her insults wins. Not the a-hole, by the way. If family members don't come to your defense when she insults you, they can't complain when you stick up for yourself. Where's your husband in all this? Why isn't he laying down the rules of behavior with his own sister in your own home? I'd stop inviting her. About time she experienced some consequences. Not the a-hole. This. What is your husband doing to stop this? It's his family, so he needs to make sure this harassment ends. Not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for saying we named our daughter after my husband's mom? My husband and I had our daughter a week ago. Early in the pregnancy, we chose her name but kept it quiet. Her first name is after my husband's late mom, and her middle name is my favorite flower. The name caused a stir with my husband's family because since age 8, he's had a stepmom. And not only did he honor his mom, but so did his brother when he had a son, by giving a male sort of equivalent of their mom's name. And this has upset their stepmom because they have never bonded with her or considered her their mom, and she feels disrespected and hurt. Then Wednesday, we had a neighbor stop by while my husband's family was visiting the baby, and she asked about the name choice, and I told her she was named after my husband's mom. Neighbor said it was lovely and left. And then my husband's dad and stepmom turned on me for saying that, without acknowledging that he had another mom and stepmom, and making her feel even more looked over. My husband told them he only has one mother, and that they need to get over it and they should apologize to me or leave. It kind of blew up from there. My husband's half and step-siblings are all upset too, that I would say that in front of stepmom. Pretty much everyone there is mad except my husband and his brother, who is furious that stepmom was referred to as their mom/other mom. I guess I just feel a little bad because I know my husband and his brother could never find a way to let their stepmom in, and it's hurt her. But I also see how much they love their mom, and they're good people who have happy lives. This has just been a thing for 20 years now, and I wonder if I was insensitive. But I also know that in my husband and brother-in-law's hearts, their mom is their only mom and maternal figure, and I was respecting their feelings on it. I guess I'm just feeling a little, I don't know, uncertain? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. The level of self-absorption required to complain that a child was named after its late grandmother rather than you is freaking staggering. You're absolutely not an a-hole. Your baby's grandfather and step-grandmother really need to get it together though, because they are a-holes. Right? Seems pretty clear why the sons haven't developed a relationship of any depth with stepmom. But what do I know? Not an a-hole considering you were only telling the truth. It's not your fault your husband never bonded with a stepmom. And why would you just straight up lie to your neighbor when asked a harmless question? It's been 20 years. I think she needs to just let it go because obviously things aren't going to change and you can't make someone feel a certain way just because you want it to be that way. That is stepmom wanting stepsons to acknowledge her as mom. Did stepmom think you would name your child after her at all? Because that would be totally messed up. I think she thought we would either forgo an honor name or use all grandmothers, of which she would be included herself, so that she could be honored in some way alongside. I think at the back of it all, she just wants to feel like they have finally started to love her. But like you said, at some point, she might just need to accept it's not happening. Ridiculous. In my opinion, parents have the right to name their kid whoever they want, and everyone else can shut up. Unless someone plans on naming the kid John Doe or something else equally terrible. I'd say if they didn't bond, then why? Was she not the type of mom they wanted? So if she's upset, maybe she should evaluate what she did or didn't do that made the stepkids not bond with her. But after 20 years, I don't think it's going to be repairable. She could start by not being butthurt about the names. I laughed at finally starting to love her because in order for that to happen, she obviously needs to make a behavioral change. They won't just magically love her one day. They didn't want another mom at all. They view their mom was the only person who could ever have that role. And I don't know if at first she and their dad focused too much on being mom/dad number 2 to their respective stepkids. But while her kids were happy my father-in-law wanted to be their dad, my husband and his brother were not happy she wanted to be their mom. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on my mother-in-law? My mother-in-law has recently divorced my father-in-law, and she doesn't have a way to survive. All of her kids and their spouses have been giving her money, but she claims it isn't enough. My father-in-law was pretty loaded, so I guess she was permanently used to the rich lifestyle. Recently, my wife invited her over, and while I was preoccupied, she took my ring. This ring was my father's ring, and I cherish this ring a lot. It would be terrible if I lost the ring. I thought I just misplaced it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. The next time my wife had a video call with her mother, I saw the ring in the background. I went straight to my mother-in-law's house and asked for my ring back. She tried to play dumb, but I could literally see the ring behind her. She wasn't that tall, so I don't know why she even tried hiding it. I called the cops when she refused, with a detailed description of the ring and promptly left. I don't know what the cops did because I wasn't there, but my in-laws aren't too happy. They're pretty pissed off that I handled the situation by calling the cops, instead of checking to make sure it was actually the ring, but I know what I saw. I've had a ring for years, and I know what it looks like. My in-laws are calling me all kinds of names. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Go full force. No ring equals no money ever. Never allowed in your home again. Never see grandkids if you have any. Tell your wife she gets it back, or maybe you will consider therapy instead of divorce. Not okay. Go scorched earth. Yes, no ring, no nothing. She can't just steal things. Did you get it back? Not the a-hole. I did. Like from the cops or your mother-in-law? Obviously, if she had your ring, you're not the a-hole. And she could have avoided a phone call to the cops by giving it back. She brought it on herself. Not the a-hole. She literally stole from you. And OP is taking the heat from trying to get their stolen property back. Redunculous. Not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for making a deal with my mother-in-law which led to her never meeting my children? I have 3 kids, ranging from 15 to 8, and I have been happily no contact with my mother-in-law for 16 years. When I met mother-in-law, she absolutely hated me. She had been cool with past girlfriends, Everyone swore she was so nice and laid back when I wasn't around, but she despised me. She did everything she could to exclude me, and she was always taking digs. I am not the type to take the line down, and it turned nasty. I know I said things I am not proud of. My husband tried to stick up for me. He tried to set boundaries, but mother-in-law would rather be right than happy. He also tried putting her in timeout. Mother-in-law's competitive as hell, and when her timeout was over, she wouldn't answer her phone. At the time, I was too pushy for him to choose me. It was literally ripping my husband's soul out. We went on a short trip with her, and it ended with me screaming at her. My husband feeling so defeated he broke down in tears, and mother-in-law actually had a panic attack and ended up with hives. Not the first time she had a physical reaction because being around me upset her so much. It just occurred to me that we can't go on like that. The three of us had a long conversation about what we wanted. Mother-in-law wanted to be able to see her son without seeing me. I wanted to not put up with her crap anymore, and my husband didn't want to lose either of us. During the talk, I learned that mother-in-law was totally indifferent to having grandchildren, so I proposed a deal. Mother-in-law and dear husband could have whatever relationship they wanted outside of me. She could have her family dinners and her family pictures without having to freak out about me not being family, but she would never meet our kids. Mother-in-law was chomping at the bit. She loved it. The next year was one of the most peaceful of my life. My husband was finally happy. Mother-in-law was no longer a basket case getting physically ill over the stress, and I had my first child. Mother-in-law never once broke our agreement. She has never asked me to meet them. I'm not even sure she knows their names. My husband has lunch with her about once a week, and goes to family dinners or cookouts at her house a couple times a month. He even spends Christmas Eve with her. Recently, my two oldest children have expressed interest in meeting her. Honestly, I worry that it is because she has money and does a lot of cool stuff. Dear husband doesn't go on family vacations without us, but my oldest found her aunt on social media and now knows how much they travel and that mother-in-law has multiple vacation houses. We are comfortably middle class, and all of the money comes from her husband, who is sister-in-law's dad but not dear husband's. Still, we are talking it over and deciding if they would meet her. However, both my kids have told me I was selfish for striking that deal, and they feel like I used them as bargaining chips. I don't have any family on my side, and they are really mad that they missed out. Now, I don't think mother-in-law is a good person, but her life does look pretty great on social media. My kids seem really mad at me, so now I am questioning everything. Now for the comments. Everyone sucks here except your kids. This is such a messed up scenario. Your husband should have put a stop to her BS early on. He didn't, and you reacted badly. You then struck a deal that gave her what she wanted, constant and restricted access to her baby boy. I can't believe your husband is just fine with this. Your kids are in a weird spot, where their dad's family openly and regularly excludes them because his mother rationally hates you. You can't control this woman. She is scary smart, and she also believes it's okay to hurt herself as long as it means no one has power over her. No type of normal punishment or reasoning was going to work, and she had a lot of people telling her she was right. He did everything he could, and the emotional toll wasn't worth it. I'm not so sure he did. He could have distanced himself once she went off the deep end. He did. It broke his heart, and seeing him like that wasn't worth it to me. I felt that I couldn't claim to love him and then take away a big piece of who he was. You're the a-hole. In light of more information regarding Opie's role in this conflict, I think it's pretty clear she is the a-hole. Originally thought everybody sucks here. What kind of narcissistic monster demands a super close relationship with her son, but is also like, screw them grandkids? What kind of man is okay with his kids being cut off from the family he still has a super close relationship with, or allows said family to disrespect his wife? What kind of person insists her children be cut off from half their family as part of a deal to keep peace with her admittedly crappy mother-in-law? You all sound terrible. Your last point is exactly how people advise someone in a relationship where there's an abusive in-law to work things. Opie has no right to demand that her husband cut off his mother, but she has every right to refuse to be around someone who treats her with such abuse. And she has an obligation to protect her children from such an abusive person. Now, obviously, Opie shouldn't have cut off everyone in her husband's family, but it sounds like she didn't. It sounds like the other members of her mother-in-law's family are unwilling to have a relationship with her outside of their relationship with the mother-in-law. Holy crap! You left a lot out in this post. So let's get this straight. Upon meeting your mother-in-law while you were still only dating your husband, you insisted on being treated like family and tried to force your way, even call yourself pushy when you mentioned this, into the family dynamic, and got extremely bitter when she didn't want you to be her daughter after immediately meeting you? Then further down the line, you told her her parents should have ended her at 3 years old. And apparently you've done something so appalling to her that your father-in-law has tried to have you arrested. None of your in-laws will go to your house or spend time with you. They're all comfortable with this arrangement where your husband pretends to be single. Frankly, it sounds like you're a pushy, awful aggressor expected to immediately be loved as a daughter. And when that bond wasn't formed immediately, you went off the deep end of absolutely insane behavior. You're the a-hole. Last story is titled, Would I be the a-hole if I skip Mother's Day brunch with my in-laws? Background information. My husband and I are in our 30s, together for 15 years. We have one child. We live very close to his parents, who are divorced and both were married, and my mother. I am very introverted, and he is very extroverted, which is the root cause of most arguments we have. We both work full-time, so the weekends are the only uninterrupted time we have to chill and be a family. It is Mother's Day in the US this weekend. I had previously made plans with my mother for Sunday, to cook her dinner and spend some time with her. She works full-time also, so we do not see her as often. My husband asked if we could have a visit with his mom on Saturday. She's retired and we see her quite often. I don't dislike her, but she is very draining of my energy, and I do not feel relaxed or fully comfortable around her. I have been trying to be more honest about my feelings, and I told my husband that I didn't really want to do that, because it is Mother's Day weekend and I would like to spend one day relaxing with my child at home. He immediately got offended and said that I am not his mother. Why should he spend the day with just me as we do that every day? And we're celebrating my mom, and it wouldn't be fair to visit her and not his own mom. I decided he was right. I shouldn't keep him from visiting his mom on the holiday. So I said it was fine, but I did not want to host or cook. So he said that is fine. We can go out to dinner instead, as it will just be the 6 of us. Me, husband, our child, his mom, stepdad, and his sister who is single. Yesterday, he told me that mother-in-law has invited her other daughter and her husband and 4 kids to her celebration. They live out of town, and sister-in-laws also invited their stepmom and dad as to not leave them out. So now there are 14 people, and they cannot find an outside restaurant reservation for such a big group. Husband decided to offer up our house as it is the biggest yard. He said he will get carry-out so I don't have to cook, but I will still have to clean up after everyone. Also, my mother-in-law always overstays her welcome, which was another reason I didn't want to have it at our house. I think my husband and child will love the party, but I will not. And I am feeling pretty offended that my husband once again steamrolled over my wishes in what is supposed to be my special day too. I'm also a mother, and let his mom call all the shots. There's not much I can do at this point except to remove myself from the situation. I thought about just going out by myself and grabbing coffee, getting a massage, etc. to try and prioritize myself, which I'm not good at doing but trying to get better. But I'm afraid this will hurt feelings and cause a fight with my husband. Would I be the a-hole if I did this? Not the a-hole. If your mother-in-law is so fond of big family gatherings, she needs to get a house big enough to host them herself. And if your husband is so fond of his mother that he prioritizes her wishes above those of his wife, then maybe he should move back in with her. I'm less of an introvert and more vengeful than you. If it were me, I'd attend a party and enjoy the takeout, but leave for the massage or other me time just as it's ending to ensure husband bears all of the cleanup duty as well. If you skip out on it entirely, you're not there to defend yourself. And I can almost guarantee the reason your husband gives everyone for your absence will not be "it's my fault." I broke a promise to her that we wouldn't burden her with a big event on Mother's Day. Oh, this idea is chef's kiss perfect. Maybe also tell everyone how sweet your husband is, since he is going to take care of everything since it's Mother's Day, so you can just relax. Not an a-hole, but husband is, definitely. At least in this situation. For Father's Day, you should just skip it and tell him you're not my dad. Or invite 30 people over, get takeout, and leave the mess for him to clean up later. I'm kidding. That won't solve anything. But that would be so tempting if it were me. Not a hole. You made a compromise and he completely broke that. Also, it's Mother's Day. Why should you have to clean up after everyone? Tell him that as he invited everyone over, cleaning up is his responsibility. I will definitely have him clean up. That's a good suggestion. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents that I don't think of them as parents anymore? My 17 female parents got divorced when I was 9, and probably for the best because they sucked together. The road to get there was messy, and they still don't get along and use any little thing to get at each other. So I've learned to just keep my head down and take care of myself. They both were dating before the ink was dry on the divorce, so remarriages happened a few years ago. My stepdad is alright. He's the only person who didn't expect me to be happy about everything or try to force me to bond, so we stay in our lanes and get along. His aunt is older than me and overseas in the military, so I haven't had to meet him. But he and my mom recently had a baby. My stepmom is meh, not bad but kind of interfering and doesn't stay in her lane. So I have no interest in forming any kind of relationship with her beyond what's necessary to live in the same house. That upsets her, but she's a big girl and can deal with disappointment. It's not going to change at this point. Her kids are still in single digits and kind of irritating, so I avoid them when possible. My parents were busy dating and now dealing with their new families, so I've mostly been left to do my own thing. And when I'm home at either place, I stay in my room and mind my own business. I just got my college acceptance and scholarships finalized, so I'm planning for graduation. I'll be working away for the summer, and it would be more convenient travel-wise just to go directly from there to school in the fall. I already have most necessities with me, and can travel light and buy what I need for my dorm when I get there. My stepmom wants me to come back for a couple of weeks because people will want to spend time with me before I go to school. I told her that wouldn't be necessary. She told my dad, who asked me why, and I told him that at this point we don't have to all pretend we like each other anymore. So it's probably best to call it like it is, and for me to just go and spend some time away for a while. He has his family, mom has hers, and I'm just the last remnant of a failed relationship. So once I'm gone, we're all finally free. They've spent the years since the divorce being more like legal guardians than parents anyway, and I haven't thought of them as actual parents for a long time. It turned into a big circus. My dad blames my mom and my mom blames my dad who writes a script. They're both very hurt. My stepmom thinks I'm being very cruel. My stepdad just said, "You feel how you feel." Now I have to go to counseling. But really, I feel like it needed to be said finally because the elephant has been in the room for a while. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. 1 point, don't treat the counseling as a punishment. You might actually need support and a professional can provide it. You will recognize if the counselor is a professional by whether he will actually provide emotional support or whether he will try to force you into relationships with people regardless of their horrible treatment of you. There's irony in neither of her parents realizing that they went and immediately proved her point. At least stepdad is chill. Not a-hole. Your plan makes sense and I agree with your chill stepdad. You feel how you feel. They can go to therapy if they are very hurt. But you should be able to move on with your life that you have already taken steps forward with. College, scholarships, job, and to be left alone if that is what you want. That's a very sad view to take on to therapy. I mean, I agree with stepdad's comment, but therapy is not a punishment. If she has some emotional load to unpack, hello, keeping this sort of thing in for years, she should take the opportunity. Therapy isn't cheap, so it may take years for her to afford it for herself if she later decides it would benefit her. OP, if nothing else, think about your future and take advantage of the therapy. What can it hurt? Not stay home. It sounds as if they were busy with themselves and still are. Because they are hurt. And I don't read any concern for your feelings, only how it makes them feel. But go to counseling. This is an opportunity and you should take it. Not because anything here is your fault, but a good counselor probably will tell your parents they need to address your feelings and have them look at how they handled things. Next story. Am I the a-hole for sending my cousin the bill for my kid's birthday cake because her kid ruined it? We recently threw my 5-year-old a birthday party. He hasn't had a real birthday party since he was 2 years old due to COVID, so this was the first one he'd actually remember. We wanted to make it special, so we invited all our closest friends, family members, and their kids. One of my cousins, a single mom, has a very unruly 6-year-old. He is loud, disobedient, and a nightmare in public. When it came time to blow out the candles and cut the birthday cake, he came and stood directly next to my son. I anticipated what was going to happen next and asked my husband to stand behind this kid in case he tried to pull anything. After we sang, this kid kept trying to blow out the candles. My husband kept blocking him and pulling him back, and we could tell the kid was getting frustrated. Eventually, my son blew out the candles and the kid absolutely lost it. He threw a tantrum and slammed his entire arm into the cake, knocking it into the table. It was so awkward. Everyone gasped and got quiet. My son looked up at us and I could tell he was about to start crying. In an effort to not cause a bigger scene, my husband picked him up and whispered to him that we had another special cake just for him. We didn't, and he seemed to calm down. Meanwhile, his cousin was still standing there screaming and crying, his arm covered in cake, while his mom was nowhere to be seen. I walked him over to the sink and washed him off, and quietly told him that he shouldn't have done that to the cake, and that he should apologize to his cousin for what he did. He screamed "no" in my face and then ran away. My husband ended up running out to buy a sheet cake that we cut and served to everyone. I spoke to my cousin after the party about what happened since she wasn't in the room, and she brushed it off saying kids will be kids. I completely disagree. I've been to plenty of birthday parties where the other kids let the birthday boy/girl have their moment. I suggested she pay for the ruined cake, and she looked at me like I was crazy. I told her how important it was to us that this birthday be special to my son, since it would be the first one he remembered, and how all he would remember was that his cousin ruined a special moment. She got extremely defensive and refused to pay for anything. She then accused me of acting like the perfect mom and began to list the ways in which I was in fact not perfect. It was a hurtful conversation and we haven't spoken since. I sent her the bill for the ruined cake and she has not paid us. I actually feel she should pay for both cakes since her kid is the reason we had to get another one, but I didn't go that far. My husband thinks she'll never pay us and that I should drop the issue at this point. He says that since she's a single mom, it's probably hard on her, and we should cut them both some slack. I understand that, but I feel like it's just letting her and her son off the hook, and this will lead to even bigger problems in the future if we don't hold them accountable. Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole, but you'll never get your money and I think you made a point. The kid is a jerk because the parent is a jerk. No longer invite them to any parties and enjoy your immediate family because they seem nice. I agree. You will never get your money back. Your only way to go from here is to cut her out completely, because her son and her bad parenting will only get worse. Plus, holding them accountable isn't going to be the magic lesson that resolves all their issues. Not stay whole, but obviously she's not going to pay for the cake. Don't invite her to any more occasions or events and just write her off. Her son is going to have massive problems in the future no matter what. It's not your responsibility. Nor do you even have the ability to prevent that. Hounding her about paying for the cake isn't going to make any difference at all, except make both of you feel more anger and resentment. Believe me, when your son is older, he's going to remember, oh yeah, I remember a-hole cousin Joe ruined my cake that year. I wonder if he's out of jail yet. Yeah. I used to date someone whose younger nephews were this level of entitled. The last time I heard anything, about 12 to 14 years after we broke up, was them in the news being arrested for various destructive stuff. My thought at the time was, not surprising. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit one of my nieces anymore because she stole my son's medicine because she thought it was chocolate? I am a stay-at-home mom of 5 boys, and because I am the only one in our family who doesn't have a job, I also watch my 2 nieces, 5 and 11. Only the 5-year-old is my brother's genetic child. The 11-year-old is from my sister-in-law's previous relationship. Normally, I would have never mentioned that because our family treats both girls the same, of course, but it's relevant in this case. Since my brother and sister-in-law and parents all still work, they come over to my house every day and I care for them and help them with their virtual schooling along with my own kids. One of my boys has a problem with chronic constipation, to the point that he's had a problem with encaprices because of it. Doctors still don't know exactly what is wrong. We're still trying to figure it out. One of his medicines he has to take every day is those X-Lax chocolate bars. He has 1/2 square every morning. We've had issues in the past with the kids asking for chocolate because they see my son eat some, but I've explained it's not really candy, but son's medicine. My other son understands and is fine with it. There have been a few times my sister-in-law has asked if I could get a normal chocolate bar for the other kids, so everyone gets chocolate in the morning to make it fair. I refuse to do that because my kids don't need chocolate every day, and it wouldn't be fair to my son because this medicine is fairly bitter and certainly does not taste like real chocolate. So long story short, the 11-year-old ended up stealing all of my son's medicine and ate the whole thing one afternoon when I wasn't looking. Obviously, this did not turn out well for her, and her parents had to take her to the hospital because she was so sick. I was furious because she knew that was not allowed, but she said it wasn't fair that my son always got chocolate and she didn't. I told brother that I didn't want to watch 11-year-old anymore because I can't trust her not to steal my son's medicine. Sister-in-law is furious, saying she has no one else to watch her, and I could have fixed this by letting her daughters have chocolate to make it fair. I said I will still watch the 5-year-old, but not the 11-year-old, who is mad at me too and not apologetic at all. Brother is begging me to look past this, but honestly, I don't want to. I am so mad that she did this, and now I have to buy more medicine. Am I the a-hole? She is only 11, but she knew what she did was wrong and still says it's unfair. So how do I know she won't do it again? Just not eat as much? I don't know. Edit. Forgot to add that sister-in-law is accusing me of not wanting to watch 11-year-old because she is not related to me like 5-year-old is. Obviously, that is not true. I love them both equally. I just don't like the behavior of the eldest. The 5-year-old behaves fine. Now for the comments. Not stay home. You clearly explained that it was not chocolate and in fact medicine. Her mother needs to check herself. Not only does her daughter owe you an apology, so does she. You are providing a service that many parents have to pay thousands a month for. You certainly don't owe her daughter snacks that you wouldn't be giving your own children. Medicine is medicine, no matter what it looks like. If she wants to give her child candy, she can do so in her own home. I can only imagine how this girl will end up when she can steal medicine, not have to apologize, and apparently suffer no consequences for her actions. She'll be a nightmare in a few years. Or dead. Dead is a realistic option too, because she ate probably days worth of medicine she didn't know anything about. This girl will die of an overdose in my eyes. Scenario. But Mom, I hope he drinks whiskey. I want whiskey too. My best friend has an uncle who got away with everything just like this girl. He's now a 30-year heroin addict in methadone therapy and is dying very, very, very slowly. Her grandmother, who had a big part in his addiction, is 88 now. She spent most of what should have been her retirement and most of her resources keeping him housed, sporadically sober, fed, and out of jail. Oddly, she was super strict on her other 2 kids. They have gone low contact because she kept asking them for money to support the older brother. So many lives ruined because she let him do whatever he wanted as a child. Free childcare, free chocolate, not offering to pay to replace the medicine? Your sister-in-law sounds like she will take from you as much as possible. And if the 5-year-old does something harmful/expensive in the future, I wouldn't expect her to offer to make amends for it either. I'm sorry your generosity has been taken advantage of, not stay home. Right? Holy moly! She should be grateful to have free childcare and discipline her child. My eyes rolled at the idea that you have to give everyone chocolate in the morning to make it fair. 11 years old is old enough to listen and not act out like that after understanding no means no. Doesn't matter what arguments are made, it's all moot. You've made a decision and that's that. You don't even need a reason to stop watching any children besides your own. Do not give in. Last story. Am I the a-hole for splitting chores between my daughters equally? I have 2 daughters, Sadie 23 female and Hannah 15 female. Sadie moved back in with us after she got her college degree. She's not working at the moment, and my wife, her stepmom, complained about her not helping out, or at least keeping the house clean. Instead, she goes out with friends mostly daily. or sits chatting or watching Netflix for hours. I had a talk with Sadie and let her know that it's time to help out. I gave her a list of chores to do and she said, whatever, but I still made sure she does them all. A few days ago, Sadie complained about how unfair it is that she has a list of chores to get done while Hannah doesn't. I figured that yes, she's right. And so I went ahead and made an equal list of chores for Hannah, since Sadie stopped doing anything till there's some equality achieved in the house. The problem occurred when Hannah saw the list. She said it was unfair that she gets an equal list of chores as her sister, without keeping in mind that she, Hannah, has school, has piano lessons and homework and therapy appointments, while Sadie sits around or hangs out with friends all day, then come home being free of homework or school. I told her it's all about equality. I don't care which one has more time to spare. Hannah got upset and brought my wife into it. My wife said it's unreasonable to give two girls of different ages, different routines, and responsibilities the same list of chores. I again insisted that I am trying to establish equality, which is the most important thing. Yet my wife said I'm being unfair and requested I give Hannah a smaller list, but I refused. We began fighting and I flat out told her that just because Hannah is her biological daughter doesn't mean she gets to be favored and cuddled. My wife got pissed over my statement and claimed I was enabling Sadie's irresponsible behavior. We went back and forth on this several times till we both blew up at each other. The girls have noticed because of the tension, and the house is now basically split into two teams. We still haven't reached an agreement and my wife is choosing to die on this hill. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You say you're trying to establish equality, but all you're doing is punishing Hannah for Sadie's laziness. You tell your wife she's favoring her daughter. What do you think you are doing? They're not in the same place in life and should not be treated the same. Sadie sounds like a lazy freeloader, whom you've likely catered to her whole life, hence the attitude. And Hannah does work. Equality doesn't work this way. If someone pushes another person down, you don't comfort them both to keep things equal. Hannah's responsibilities include school and other things she does for her health. Having someone load a dishwasher when they aren't doing anything and dumping that on top of someone who is writing a paper before bed isn't equality. The total number of hours/energy exerted Hannah has on her plate is already there. If you put that on a scale and added the chore Sadie has to do, it would not be balanced. As an aside, I'm glad Hannah's in therapy. Very glad. You're the a-hole. Sadie can get off her butt and clean, and she needs a job ASAP. Hannah had a job. It's called school. Your wife is right, and this is really horrible parenting on your part. Stop enabling Sadie by punishing the child that has done nothing wrong. Having chores is one thing, but it's pretty obvious that was never required before. And I'd bet money that Sadie didn't have any when she was Hannah's age. Update. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my fiancé for telling her best friend she was not engaged? Original post. My now ex-fiancé, 30 female and I, 27 male, got engaged 3 weeks ago. We had been dating for 5 years, and I finally saved up enough money to give her the wedding she wanted. A few days ago, we were discussing our guest list, and I asked if she wanted to invite her best friend. Let's call him James, 30 male. James lives in another state, but since they had been friends for 10 years, I even offered to pay for his travel expenses, thinking it would be great to have her best friend at the wedding. She declined, saying it would be too much work to bring him, and that she wanted it to be a family event. This surprised me, because she often referred to James as like family to her. I insisted, but she became annoyed and said, I didn't even tell him we were engaged. That took me by surprise, and when I asked why, she started stonewalling me, so I left her alone. After a couple of hours, I tried again to ask why she hadn't told him about our engagement, but she still refused to explain. I admit, my insecurity got the better of me. In the past, James had confessed that he had feelings for her, but she turned down and friend-zoned him. However, the way she talked about it always made me feel like she kept him as a backup, something both I and her exes had noticed. They were married in an online game, World of Warcraft, always made their characters look like a couple, and whenever she had issues with her exes, he was always there for her. I told her that all of this made me uncomfortable, and if she wasn't planning to tell him about our engagement, she might as well consider herself single, because I wasn't going to marry someone who couldn't be honest. I admit, I was being immature, but what she did next was even more so. She texted him while showing me her phone and wrote something like, "Hey, just so you know, I was engaged, but not anymore," and sent it to him. At that point, I told her to pack her things and leave my house. Since she left, she's been calling me, but I've refused to answer. My mom even called me, saying that my ex had called her and told me I was an a-hole for ending things over such a ridiculous reason. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. There is a reason she won't tell her best friend that she plans on getting married. I mean, most women think getting married is one of the biggest things in life and tells everyone she knows. Unless it will put a damper on something. You know, boyfriends hate hearing their girlfriend is getting married. The night I proposed, I am pretty sure that my wife was on the phone before I even heard a yes, with as many people as she could think to call. Not the a-hole. She wanted to keep her backup plan intact. Maybe OP should reach out to James and tell him this, along with copies of any texts she sent to OP confirming this. But that might be my bias talking, because if my best friend just kept me around as a potential backup, I'd kick them to the curb. So your ex-fiancé didn't want to tell her boyfriend about you. Unless you're poly, sounds like a great reason to end an engagement. If you want to confirm that she was cheating, offer to meet up with her for lunch. When you get there, tell her if she wants any chance with you, she needs to unlock her phone, and you read all of her messages between him and her on all media. I'm sure you will find more than enough to confirm that leaving is the best choice. Mini update. Hey guys, I made some dinner and I think I'm going to go with the commenter's advice. I'm going to ask her to meet up and ask to see their messages. And for my mom, I'm already low contact with her, but I'm going to make my decisions after I clear everything up. So I'm kind of promising an update. Now for the first update. Hey guys, I just got home after talking to my still ex-fiancé, and since a lot of people asked for an update, here it is. But before that, I want to clarify a few things. As I mentioned in my original post, I pay for the house since I bought it before we started dating, and I asked her to move in because it was closer to her job. I work from home, I'm in tech, but she had to commute, which is why I also paid for a car. Her salary wasn't great, and I thought I was helping out as her partner. I genuinely thought she was the one. Despite everything, she's smart, funny, and we had chemistry, but I felt betrayed. Now for the update. We met at a coffee shop under the pretense of discussing how to save our relationship, or at least that's what she thought. As soon as we sat down, I asked to see the messages between her and James. She got defensive right away and told me she had deleted everything. I asked to see her phone anyway. She started to ugly cry, asking me to stop. By then, I had already decided I wasn't staying in a relationship, but I was still curious. It took about 20 minutes of crying and even a waitress asking if she was okay before she finally handed over her phone. I went through the messages. There wasn't any cheating in the sense of nudes or love confessions, but what I found still hurt. There were a lot of messages between them talking bad about me. They criticized my hobbies, I like video games and pro wrestling, and called me not a real man because of them. But two things stung the most. One, she had told him I was having trouble getting hard, which she found frustrating. Two, she complained about feeling stuck in a relationship. Yes, I was having issues in bed, but that was because I was grieving. My father passed away 6 months ago. As for the stuck comment, I remember telling her that when she got married, if she wanted, she could leave her job and I would provide for both of us. I don't know if she misunderstood that, but I guess it was related to her feeling stuck. After I finished reading, she started giving excuses for what she said, claiming James was like a therapist for her. She asked, "Don't you complain about me to your friends?" I replied, "No, I don't." She started crying again. I took a deep breath and said, "Just give me the ring back." She hesitated but handed it over. I stood up and told her to delete my number and not to bother me anymore. I called her mom and asked her to come pick up her daughter's things. Her mom is a good person, and I'm realizing as I write this that I'm going to miss her. She understood my decision to end things and didn't ask too many questions, which I appreciated. As for my own mom, I didn't bother calling her. I blocked her for unrelated reasons. I realized she's never really had my back in anything, and I've been trying too hard to save a relationship that's already failed. Before I wrap this up, I just want to clarify. I was never against her having male friends or any type of friends. People will cheat whether they have friends or not. I remember my dad telling me when I was a teenager, opportunity makes the thief, but I don't agree with that. Anyway, I've got the next 2 weeks off work, so I'm going to figure out what to do with the wedding money, drink some booze, play video games, and watch Monday Night Raw later. Peace. Edit. A couple of people have asked about the car. It's a 2015 Nissan Versa and she crashed it twice, both times rear-ending someone. I've never liked that car. The engine's weak, the interior feels cheap, and overall, it's just bad. So honestly, she can keep that piece of junk. I'd probably have better luck throwing it off a cliff than selling it. Dodged a ballistic missile. She did not want to be stuck with you. Then why cry for a marriage she doesn't want? Oh, but she's going to miss the wedding. That's what she wanted. Let's see if her best friend/boyfriend can provide her with one. Oh man, there are 4 billion women in this planet. Be patient. Yours will find her way to you, but not this POS. And a car payment, the free housing, utilities and food. Don't forget that. Damn, that Redditor who recommended handing over her phone was spot on. Way to dodge that bullet. Someone is out there. Second update. Her mom called me a few hours ago to check in and ask when she could come pick my ex's stuff. We also talked about the car, and she pretty much forbid me from letting her daughter keep it. Her reasons were, 1. I paid for it. 2. My ex wouldn't be able to maintain it. So I'm going to keep the car until I can sell it. God help me. Also, some people are confused why could it be a real man for playing games, and yet my ex and James played World of Warcraft. Honestly, that's on me for not being clear enough. The real man comments were more about my pro wrestling hobby than the gaming, but there were some messages where they mocked me for playing certain games, like the Life is Strange series. I remember one message from James where he said something like, "How could a grown man play such a girly game and cry?" Yes, I cried while playing Life is Strange. I also cried during Red Dead Redemption 2. The I'm afraid cutscene still makes me emotional. Guess I'm just a crybaby. I also want to thank everyone who messaged me to talk about wrestling and games. It really helped take my minds off things. I haven't replied to everyone yet, but I plan to. If anything else happens, I'll let you guys know. Be good, people. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to wake my girlfriend up for work, which led her getting fired? I, 26 male, have been in a relationship with my girlfriend Jess, 28 female, for 3 years. Jess and I live together. Jess is not a morning person. This is primarily due to the fact that she's up until 2 or 3 a.m. every day on her phone, despite having to wake up at 8 a.m. I've tried to get her to start going to bed earlier so she could wake up on time, but she says that would leave her no time to do her own things. Seeing as she only works until 4 p.m., this is patently false. But I decided not to press the issue. Generally, I have to wake Jess up. I wake up at 5, run for an hour, get home at 6, shower, eat breakfast, and use my computer a bit. I'll start waking Jess up at around 7:30. I fully understand it's ridiculous to have to wake a 20-year-old woman up, but I honestly don't mind, or at least I wouldn't mind, if it weren't for the fact that waking Jess up is a nightmare. I start by gradually turning on the lights at 7:30, starting with a bedside lamp. Then I begin gently trying to wake her up. If she gets up around this time, she'll go to the bathroom and then I'll go back to the room to find her asleep again. The worst part about waking her up is she's so combative in the morning. She'll use expletives directed at me, insulting me, and then later when I bring up her words, she'll just say, "I was sleepy and out of it. What do you want me to do?" Well, last Friday, she pushed things a bit too far. I was waking Jess up as usual, and when she walked past me to go to the bathroom, she made this exaggerated dry heaving sound at me. Then she said, "You freaking smell. Take a shower." I had already taken a shower and always keep good hygiene. That evening, I told her that our deal with me waking her up every day was done. I was done with her tantrums, done with her insults, and done with her frankly stupid facial expressions with how out of it she was. I told her that I'm not moving a finger to make sure she gets up for work on time. She was naturally upset about this, but I said she could wake herself up. Today was Monday, and lo and behold, she overslept and was over an hour late. Since she had already been written up twice during her probationary period for her job, this was an automatic firing. Around noon, she called me incoherently yelling about how I got her fired. I had to hang up on her to get back to work. When I got home, she immediately started shrieking at me more and then demanded half my salary until she found a better job. I feel like making her go cold turkey on waking up might have been too sudden, and apparently, she really liked the job she had. Should I have at least tried to wake her up? Boss, I'ma be real. She just sounds abusive. Not only does she sound abusive, but also incredibly incompetent. You're not her mom, not the a-hole. Even a mom or dad shouldn't have to wake up a 28-year-old adult every morning to get to work. Not the a-hole, and she sounds pretty toxic. Are you sure this is a relationship that makes you happy? When I filed for divorce, moved out, etc., ex and I still talked frequently. One day she asked, "Are you happy now?" I answered honestly, I am less unhappy now than any time in the last 5 years. Obviously, that was the length of our marriage. I think she had an epiphany with that, and I didn't hear from her again really. I remember when I was married and my then husband and I saw an old married couple, and he said something like how romantic it was to be married for that long, and that he couldn't wait for us to grow old together. I remember feeling dread wash over me. The realization that I would be in this hell for 60 more years? 60 more years with him felt like a prison sentence. But that comment forced me to really look at my life and marriage and make a decision on if I was willing to keep being miserable forever or not. I left him about a year later. Even at my saddest point since my divorce, it's still happier than my best day with him. I'm so glad I chose happiness. Last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my girlfriend to move out because she started a career as an influencer and stopped respecting my privacy? I've been living with my girlfriend for 2 years. In the beginning, everything was great. We got along well, spent time together, and had a good balance between our personal lives and our relationship. But a few months ago, she started working on becoming an influencer. At first, it was just a fun hobby, posting some pictures, making a few videos, nothing too serious. I supported her and was happy she found something she enjoyed. But things quickly got out of hand. Our apartment has now become her personal studio. Every corner needs to be perfect for photos, and every room is a potential background for vlogs. When I came home tired from work, all I want to do is relax. But she immediately puts a camera in my face because she's filming content. Even our private conversations are often recorded without me knowing, and later I find them posted in her videos. It got really awkward when she shared part of a conversation where I talked about something deeply personal, which I didn't expect to be made public. I've tried talking to her about it, but she always brushes it off, saying I'm overreacting and that is just part of her job. She says I should be more supportive. Over time, this has really worn me down. I feel like there's no space left in our home where I can relax without worrying about being filmed or photographed. A few days ago, after yet another incident where I was caught on camera, I decided to have a serious talk with her. I told her that I understand her influencer career is important to her now, but for me, it's becoming too much. I suggested that maybe she should consider moving out, not because I want to break up, but because I need some privacy in a place where I don't feel like I'm always being watched. She flipped out. She called me selfish, accused me of not supporting her career, and said I was trying to control her. She even accused me of sabotaging her success instead of being proud of her achievements. Now we're barely speaking, and I feel like my boundaries and needs aren't being respected at all. I understand that her job excites her, but am I really the a-hole for just wanting some privacy and space in my own home? Am I the a-hole? No, you're not the a-hole here at all. She's delusional to accuse you of that. She's showing her character not respecting your boundaries. Exactly. It should be so that when I come home, I have some privacy. She could rent an apartment specifically for filming to keep some sense of privacy. If she needs to film you, then she's not the influencer. You are. What has she discussed with you about sharing her ad revenue and other income from these videos? You can be supportive, but my significant other doesn't come to my job and do my job for me. That's a wild expectation on her part. Being supportive would be like sacrificing half the kitchen table to set up as her backdrop or something. so it looks like she has an office. She can just fake the backdrop. Drop this chick ASAP. This girl needs constant attention and validation. Your compliance is not requested. It is being demanded, despite your legitimate concerns. Get rid of her. It's a very difficult decision for me because I love her so much, and I wish we could work things out. You are not the a-hole for wanting privacy in your own home. It's completely reasonable to expect a living space free from constant filming and recording, especially without your explicit consent. Exactly. Home should be a place where we can maintain a certain level of anonymity, not a space where we're constantly exposed online.